In this fourth vlog, I will analyze the school diagnosis related to teacher well-being, workload, and inclusive education. And I will briefly describe the context of my school, present the I-generated proposal, and then critically examine five measures that I consider most relevant for our reality. Okay, let me start contextualizing my school. I imagine a public primary school located in a peripheral neighborhood here in the region of Murcia. It is a two-form entry school with around 420 students and a very diverse community, with migrant families, students with learning difficulties, and children with behavioral and emotional needs. The teaching staff consists of 34 teachers. Many of them are young and working on temporary contracts, which creates a high turnover and a lack of continuity with projects. The diagnosis we receive matches our reality because only a small percentage of teachers report high well-being. Workload and administration tasks are overwhelming. Behavioral issues generate stress, and there is a lack of training in inclusive education. Despite this challenge, the school has a moderately positive climate and a good relationship with families. The main challenge is to adapt any external or age-generated proposal to the real constraints of our school. To explore possible solutions, I use the following prompt in an AI tool, in this case ChatGPT. Imagine you are part of the leadership team of a public primary school facing challenges related to teacher well-being, workload, and inclusive education. Design a school development plan with 10 measures aimed at improving teacher well-being while strengthening inclusive practice. The full I response is included in the writing transcript. The I proposal is well structured and offers practical ideas, but it also has clear limitations. First, it assumes that all measures can be applied in any school without considering a specific culture, a resistance to change, and limited availability of specialists. The second, the proposal doesn't take into account the real-time control teacher face. Many of the subject actions require extra meeting, and this can increase the workload. And third, the I doesn't incorporate regional legislation such as the regulation on attention to diversity in Murcia. Even so, several measures are valuable if they adapt carefully. The first measure is the creation of a teacher well-being committee. It fits our school context because teachers feel overwhelmed and unheard. It is supported by law and regional legislation of coordination. It involves the leadership team, the counselor, and cycle coordinators, and it promotes a more horizontal structure and shared decision making. The second measure is reducing administrative workload. This is essential because paperwork is the main source of stress. LOMLOE gives school autonomy to reorganize tasks. It involves leadership, admin staff, and teachers, and helps clarify roles and reduce overload. The third measure is strengthening collaborative planning time. In a diverse school with high staff turnover, protected time is essential. It is supported by LOMLOE, which highlights collaborative work. It involves the head of studies, tutor, and specialist, and improves coherence and reduces improvisation. The fourth measure is ongoing training in inclusive education. Teacher needs practical strategies to address diversity. This measure is supported by LOMLOE and the Regional Decree on Attention to Diversity. It involves the TPR, the counselor, and specialists, and helps build a shared pedagogical culture. The last measure is improving access to specialist support. Behavioral difficulties are a major source of stress for teachers. This measure is aligned with regional legislation on attention to diversity. It involves EOF teams, the counselor, specialists, and families, and reduces emotional burden on teachers. To conclude, although the I proposal is useful as a starting point, it doesn't fully address important dimension of diversity, such as social emotional needs, linguistic diversity among migrant students, or the impact of socioeconomic inequality on family participations. For these reasons, I can generate ideas, but professional judgment is essential to adapt, prioritize, and contextualize them. On balance, technology can support us, but it cannot replace the deep understanding that teachers and school communities have on their own reality. For block 2, I choose option B, which focuses on the challenge teachers face when working with increasingly diverse student population. Today, teachers are expected to respond to a wide range of student needs, and this creates a generally complex educational challenge. In my school context, two types of diversity are especially relevant. The first one is cognitive diversity. We have students with learning difficulties, attention challenges, and different processing speeds. So this means that teachers must constantly differentiate instructions, adapt materials, and provide multiple ways for a student to reach the content. The second is cultural linguistic diversity. Some students come from migrant families and are still learning the Spanish language. So this affects communication, participation, and their sense of belonging in the class. Faced with this situation, the school must make an important decision whether to prioritize the whole class instruction to maintain peace and the curriculum covered, or to implement the flexible grouping and personalized support, which is more inclusive but requires more time, coordination, and resources. This decision creates a clear dilemma. If teachers focus mainly in the whole class instruction, some students will be left behind and the classroom becomes less inclusive. But if teachers try to personalize everything, the workload becomes unsustainable and teacher well-being suffers. This tension illustrates why diversity is not just a pedagogical issue, but an organizational one. A school must balance inclusion with a realistic working condition, and this requires collaboration, support system, and shared responsibility. In short, attending to diversity is essential, but it also creates dilemmas that require thoughtful organizational decision and not just the individual effort of one teacher. For Block 3, I choose option B. I will focus on timetable organization and propose three key actions to improve attention to diversity in my school. The first action is to include protected collaborative planning time in the weekly timetable. This is essential in a school with high diversity and high staff turnover. Teachers need time to coordinate, share strategies, and plan inclusive lessons. The main benefit is that it reduces improvisation and ensures a more current response to student needs. A limitation is that it requires reorganizing the timetable and may reduce other activities. Also, one unexpected consequence could be that some teachers perceive it as an additional burden if it's not managed properly. But this action strengthens relationships by promoting teamwork and reducing the feeling of isolation among teachers. The second action is to create flexible support blocks during the school day. These blocks allow PT, AL, and support teachers to work inside the classroom or with small groups depending on the needs of each week. The benefit is that support becomes more dynamic and responsive. A limitation can be that it requires strong coordination and clear communication between teachers. In addition, the tutor becomes overly reliant on support if co-teaching isn't properly balanced. However, this action improves relationships by encouraging co-teaching and shared responsibility. The third action is to include scheduled behavior support time for the counselor or behavior specialist. Many teachers report stress related to behavioral issues, so having predictable times for intervention helps prevent crises and support emotional regulation. There are some limitations such as specialist availability is limited in many public schools, and in some cases a fixed timetable doesn't coincide with the times when the service is actually needed. Despite this action strengthens relationships by clarifying roles and reducing the emotional burden on classroom teachers. To finish my exam, I will briefly reflect on my learning process, my performance, and the key ideas I am taking from this course. I believe I deserve a good grade, maybe like an 8 or something similar, because I have engaged critically with the content, adapt the proposal to realistic school context, and demonstrate a deep understanding of organizational dynamic and diversity. I have also tried to connect theory with practice to reflect honestly on the challenges the school face. The most important idea I have learned during this subject is that schools are not just structures or schedules. They are systems of relationships. So any organizational decision affects people, emotions, workloads, or and collaboration. Before this course, I didn't fully realize how deeply organizational decision influence teacher well-being. I used to think that well-being depended mostly of personal factors, but now I understand that it is strongly connected with the leadership, coordination, time management, and school culture. The most important idea or the key idea I have learned is that inclusion is not only about adapting materials. It requires shared responsibilities, collaboration, and a whole school approach. Inclusion is a collective effort and not only an individual burden. Now I am much more aware of its importance. Analyzing real cases and reflecting on organizational dilemmas help me to see how diversity affects every aspect of the school life, from planning and behavior support to teacher well-being and the family participation, for example. Preparing these videos helped me to connect theory with practice, and also I learned to analyze I responses critically to adapt ideas to a specific context, in this case to my school context, and to reflect of the complexity of school leadership. I have the opportunity to know a little bit about how the school inside, but this video made me more conscious of the challenges that teachers face and the importance of creating supportive structures. Overall, this course has helped me develop a more realistic, critical, and human perspective on school organization and diversity. So, thank you.